My name is Mason Quiroz. I'm a sixth grade math teacher at Alki Middle School.
All right. LatinX Heritage Month.
It's important for school districts to recognize LatinX Heritage Month. One, because it's been our tradition to recognize communities that have contributed to our country's progress. We celebrate all types of cultures and what they've contributed. But I think the most important thing is that it opens up a conversation, right? It's a starting point for folks who maybe have grown up in this region or have grown up predominantly around just one or two different types of communities. So this could be an educational piece for them to understand what their history is, what their culture entails. But it goes back to that first point, is that it's a starting point. It opens up a conversation. It allows us to have some healthy dialogue about the different cultures that live here in Vancouver. One, I would say, is first kind of reach out to the communities that you're trying to, elevate their voice or celebrate their culture, is to include them in that process, right? So the activities, I would say, should come from the communities that we're trying to, highlight. But many things, right? You could talk about, important people that we might not hear or see in our history books, like Julio Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and their commitment to social justice in our country, what they did for the farm working community. So, surrounding those activities around prominent figures in the Latinx community, I think students can have a moment to reflect and do some writing pieces on what the importance of those communities being involved with the mixture of diversity that we have in our city. We could create all kinds of artwork. The opportunities are limitless, right? So just a few is to explore the artwork, the music, the prominent figures, the day-to-day culture. I'm trying to think of other things too, but I would say that those would be the major ways to celebrate and do activities that I think students can engage in and that staff members can engage in as well. Yeah, I'll start with that later question first, is that moments like this are extremely important. Like I said in the first question, it's a starting point, right? It opens up a conversation for students and staff members to have about cultures that we're exploring and trying to gain knowledge about. But I think most importantly for students is that it is an opportunity for our school district to say, we see you, right? You matter to us. We want to know more about you so that we can do a better job serving you. I think that's number one. I think that's the most powerful thing that we can send, especially since traditionally, perhaps maybe we haven't done a thorough enough job to explore the different cultures that exist in our school district. And I think this is a great starting point to allow those students to know that, hey, you know what, we're trying, we care, and we see you, and we believe you, and we know we're gonna do our very best to incorporate you into our school system. As far as for other students, I thought about this question. I think the major thing that we can take away for staff members and students who are not part of the Latinx community is the understanding that we're not a monolith. Latinx communities are extremely diverse. One example I'll use is like mole in one community may not be the same kind of mole in a different community. And that's just a small example of the diversity that we have within the Latinx community. It allows us to explore the richness and the depth of our community other than just the surface stuff that we've seen traditionally. I think about Cinco de Mayo. I mean, we've celebrated Cinco de Mayo for so long. That was one of the biggest highlights, and it seemed like, Latinx Heritage Month was always just passed over, right? We didn't spend time and just to pause and reflect on why that would be important to celebrate and explore. And so again, I think it just provides those opportunities for students and staff to dig a little bit deeper. What matters to our culture, right? What are the ways that we can reach our students a little bit better? How do we incorporate their culture into our everyday class activities and engagement in our learning? And hopefully, I think the outcome could be that will find higher academic achievement. The student-to-student relationships would be a lot stronger in a healthy way and positive way. I think the teacher-to-student relationships would be a lot stronger in a healthy and positive way. And again, I think it just allows us to, really celebrate the richness and diversity that we have, right? And if we think about a culture just as a monolith, right, they only do these things and they only look this way, we miss a lot of opportunities to truly understand, like, not only the Latinx culture's history, but where we're at today and some of the challenges and some of the accomplishments that we're seeing today in the Latinx community. I would say the number one thing that students and staff from the Latinx community bring to our school district is a unique perspective, right? Our country is extremely diverse. It's been diverse for a long time, but it seems like we only have one or two processes of learning and engaging students, communicating with each other. The expectations seem to be kind of one ideal. And I think when we invite and we intentionally recruit staff members from the Latinx community, and we present a welcoming environment for students from the Latinx community, I think they start to give us a real richness and a unique perspective on what's happening in the school, and help us understand how we can communicate better with that demographic, how we can incorporate them into the school culture better, how we truly celebrate them, how we truly support them. And I think without having that representation, we might be missing important pieces that are very important to this community so that they're able to thrive within our community and in our school district. This is a tough one, but I'll be real about it. I think the best thing for people outside of any community, outside their own, the best thing that we can do for communities outside our own is to do some deep reflection, to increase our awareness of our own personal biases, what has influenced those biases, where we're at today with them, and begin to start to unlearn some of those things, right? As we learn to be more inclusive, as we begin to celebrate the diversity, right? As we begin to create more equity in our schools, there's some things that we have to unlearn, right? And so it starts with us. So even me, I'm a person of color, but I still work every day to try to understand the communities outside my own and whether I myself have any biases about those communities. And so I think that would be a great starting point. But also do the work to get to know your students, right? Especially if this month we're celebrating Latinx community, this is a great opportunity to reach out and learn more about them, right? Dig a little bit deeper. Don't keep it on the surface level. Understand what motivates them, what inspires them, right? What emotional impact do we have on them when we make certain decisions about the learning process and the accountability process that we have. And I think that would be the best starting points is, increasing our awareness of our own personal biases and at the same time increasing our knowledge of the Latinx community. I know these conversations are hard, I know that they can be very challenging for us because I was raised with certain beliefs myself, right? And having to unlearn those things that came from very important people in my life has been a struggle from time to time. It's been a very difficult process to do, to unlearn some things that I believed were true. And so the story that's not being told is that there's a lot of joy in understanding and gaining our knowledge of other communities. There's a lot of celebration that we can do, right? I feel like there's so many more positive things that could come out of the work that we put in to understand communities like the Latinx communities, that the hard work that we put in doesn't become so hard anymore. And I hope that's a mindset that we can start to change. I hope that we can really start to look at this in a positive way and say, man, this is going to make my classroom so much better. It's going to make it so much richer. The student-to-student discourse is just going to be so much greater. The academic success could be so much better. You know, the culture that I set in my classroom is so much better. And I think it allows educators and staff members and everybody involved in the school process to tap into that original place of why we became educators, why we wanted to work with our young people. It allows us to tap into that joy again that I feel sometimes, to be honest, sometimes it feels like it's missing. You know, there's so much stuff going on, so many tasks that we have that we forget about, you know, what was the essence of me wanting to become an educator? Why did I want to choose this job, and why do I work so hard at it? It's time that we start to, you know, change the narrative a little bit and say, hey, this work can be a lot of fun, and we can celebrate a lot of things along the way. And so that would be my last message.